How could we forget the FTX stuff? So the DOJ has accused former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried of leaking the private diary of ex-Alameda Research CEO Caroline Ellison to the New York Times. This comes after the New York Times published an article that had Ellison's private thoughts, her private musings, leading to the DOJ seeking a ban on all out-of-court statements made by witnesses and other parties in the case. They're saying this could taint the jury. And so, Will, I'm going to pass it off to you. What do you make of this? I think the New York Times article came out yesterday. What do you think?
Juicy stuff, right? CoinDesk was the one that also did the breakup story afterwards of Ellison and Sam Bankman-Fried, who were apparently dating part of this weird group of people living in the Bahamas together in an apartment, trading crypto, and perhaps more than that. So there's definitely some romantic activities between all these people, and the fact that he went so far to discredit her as revealing her private diary definitely means that relationship is over. We also know that this could harm him in court, because now they're trying to get him to they're clamping down on him and saying you can't be talking to the media, you can't be talking to the press, and they're pressing forward with that, trying to make sure that he can't speak to anyone else. And why is that? Well, tampering with a witness is key against him. Ellison and a lot of the other executives at FTX, so former executives, have turned state's witness, right, where they're going to the Justice Department and being like, hey, this is what's going on. Sam Bankman-Fried did not do that. He has pleaded not guilty at this time, so we're waiting for those proceedings to occur in October. And this could be key information for both sides here, but I think it's just part of a larger thing that SBF, as much as he's sitting in his parents' basement right now, he still wants to be in the light. And that's why he's talking to New York Times reporters. Back.
Man, season 3 of FTX, it's just crazy. You can't write this stuff. I mean, you couldn't make this up.
Juicy.
The past relationship, the past tryst being just so violated here with the leaking of a private diary like this. It's just the twists and turns in this case are unending, never fails to surprise. There's always some new piece of minutia that makes this alleged fraud probably one of the most notable, interesting, and very sort of 21st century social media stories of all time, right? You got all this stuff that's unfolding in real time, all these crazy plot twists that are somewhat Shakespearean, somewhat, Netflix studios, right? It's just wild. When this all gets distilled into its inevitable movie form, there will be plenty of real material to draw from that many viewers will say, no way, you made that up. That can't be based in reality, when in fact it is. That's just how crazy this story is. We're going to talk about more about that in a bit. But Jen, I saw your hand. I'm going to throw it your way. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, in all of the developments that come out about Sam Bankman-Fried, his actions since the collapse of FTX, I keep asking myself, is this calculated or is it driven by emotion? And I still can't really figure it out. Leaking this document to the New York Times could be a very calculated move to manipulate media coverage to taint the jury, or it could just be an emotional move because he doesn't know what to do next. He wants to stay in the spotlight and he wants the New York Times to cover this story. So I just would love to get inside the brain of Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't know, maybe one day he'll come on the Hash and we get to ask him all of the burning questions.
Join us again, Jen.
Yeah, he was on the Hash. It's true. One day maybe he can rejoin us on the Hash. The New York Times article quotes some of the diary excerpts here as Ellison feeling unhappy and overwhelmed with her job. There's one quote in the article. It says, at the end of the day, I can't wait to go home and turn off my phone and have a drink and get away from it all. So you have to just wonder what was kind of going on behind the scenes, even way before the implosion of FTX happened. It sounds like it wasn't a very happy place. It wasn't a very organized place. It sounds like absolute chaos. Zach?
Yeah, we heard some of this in public statements by Brett Harrison, right, who was the chief of FTX US. And I think his telling is that dating back to spring of 22, right before things hit the fan in November, all the way back in April, the tensions were starting to boil over. In which, according to his telling, at least, he and other key executives on the team started seeing Sam Bankman-Fried's behavior as increasingly erratic and increasingly leading to arguments and outright fights among among the crew, right? Not physical fights, I should note, but just back and forths that were less than pleasant. So you do get a bit more of a picture of the dysfunction that we've heard about from within the FTX empire through some of these highlights that are excerpted in the Times piece. It is just wild to see that more details keep emerging from what again remains a very compelling, fascinating Shakespearean story of downfall and of craziness. But yeah, wild stuff.
The trial
last on this. Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the trial's starting in October, and we should remind the audience that Ellison is a star witness against SBF. Well,
the last thing I was just going to say to add on to what Zach said, even before the Brett Harrison things, there was stuff going back to 2018 and 2019 when Alameda Research was getting off the ground, right? There was a key split at that time. A lot of people saying that Sam Bankman-Fried's behavior was domineering and just led to a dissolution of a lot of the early key team members. People don't know that because it was a firm that no one really cared about at the time, but it went on to become FTX, the behemoth that's running Super Bowl commercials. And now we have this entire downfall playing out in New York Times. And one day, certainly Netflix.